Good afternoon. It's Monday, November 10th, 2025. IX continuous voter registration is still on. If you haven't registered, this is your chance. Coming up this hour. International relations analyst says U.S. allies may back President Donald Trump's position on Nigeria. Nigerians in U.S. call on federal government to address concern raised by President Trump. Can Islamic Supreme Council disagree over Christian genocide comments by U.S.? Reactions trail Governor Soludo win in Anambra governorship election. Oyibo residents threaten protests over alleged neglect by Rivers Flood Committee. I'm Ifechukwu Muonyili with the news. Now, we'll begin the news this hour with more reactions trailing the U.S. president's allegations of Christian genocide in Nigeria. An international relations analyst, Dr. Ikirijo Abraham, says countries that align with the United States may also back President Donald Trump's position on Nigeria. This follows Trump's designation of Nigeria as a country of particular concern over claims that Christians are being killed in the country. Speaking with our correspondent, Ifunanya Obeme Ndukwe, Dr. Abraham said Trump's position on Nigeria's security could affect Nigerians traveling abroad as countries might begin to tighten their security. He added that the U.S. decision is based on its belief that the federal government has not done enough to stop the alleged persecution of Christians.
United Nations, America is one of the permanent members. And there is this tacit cooperation between all of them. And all countries that allies with the United States in the West, Britain, France, and all that, they normally go with the United States. So that means that as you travel, the image created will have a hampering effect on Nigeria origins because they would like to delineate the security will be tighter simply because they want to know which side of the divide you belong.
Dr. Abraham explained that Trump's comments are not political but reflect a global concern. He made reference to killings in some parts of the north and even the Niger Delta where herders have reportedly taken over forest areas, kidnapping people for ransom and killing others. The international relations analyst believes security information about Nigeria is often better documented in the United States than in Nigeria. Abraham advised the federal government to change its approach to fighting insecurity, saying this is not the time for excuses.
Political accusation. It is not a political accusation. It is a concern globally that a particular species of human beings in Nigeria are being killed. And in fact, the ultimate is to remove them. 29 Tucano places were bought by Nigeria, and yet the war has continued to exist unabated. Therefore, this time it calls for sincere action. One thing they don't know, that even the report about Nigeria is better gotten outside from the America than we who are here.
Meanwhile, some Nigerians living in New York are urging the federal government to respond to U.S. President Donald Trump's comment about the alleged killing of Christians in Nigeria. They say insecurity and violence in the country worry not just Nigerians abroad, but also the international community. Agnes Omotosho, a Nigerian living in the U.S., told the news agency of Nigeria that the government needs to take action on the killings. Another Nigerian, Martins Obo, who works in the U.S. security sector, said the government should show what steps it is taking to curb killings and crimes in the country to avoid possible sanctions. A third Nigerian resident in New York, who spoke anonymously, added that the ongoing killings remain a major source of concern. While in a related development, CAN chairman in Northern State and the FCT, Reverend Joseph Hayab, says decades of persecution in the Christian North now amount to genocide. Hayab also dismissed claims that the killings are mere farmer-herder clashes, insisting they are targeted attacks driven by religious hatred. Speaking on Nigerian FM's Borderlines, Reverend Hayab, who recounted burying thousands of victims from past religious crises, said the attacks predate Boko Haram's insurgency.
I am not speaking from research or whatever. I'm speaking as a victim. I'm speaking as the pastor who buried almost 2,000 people in 2000 in Kaduna. Quote me, my name is Reverend Hayam. I'm speaking as the pastor who also did the mass burial of the over 300 people of the Miss World Beauty pageant on the 23rd of November 2002. And then we are coining it into the politics of America as if we are not in Nigeria. Sincerely speaking, there has been killings of Christians in northern Nigeria before even the advent of Boko Haram.
On the other hand, security consultant Dr. Kabiru Adamu explained that incidents of religious suppression in Nigeria cut across faiths. He urged Nigerians and the international community to treat religious violence as a national concern rather than a political tool.
Let me refer to the report written by the United States Commission for International Religious Freedom, and it's a report on Nigeria, specifically discussing religious freedom in Nigeria. It did conclude that there was suppression of religious freedom, but then why I referred to that report is it brought out elements of what it called religious suppression, and interestingly recognized the fact that it affects the two dominant faiths in Nigeria.
Still on the matter, the Nigerian Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs is urging the U.S. President Donald Trump to work with Nigeria in tackling terrorism through intelligence sharing and logistical support. The Council Secretary General, Professor Ifechukwu, made the call at a news conference in Abuja where he criticized Washington's decision to redesignate Nigeria as a country of particular concern. He says the move is politically motivated and undermines genuine partnership, stressing that Nigeria's sovereignty must be respected. Olede adds that true friendship lies in collaboration, not interference, and appeals to the U.S. to support Nigeria's fight against terrorism with sincerity and mutual respect. But the president of the Pentecostal Fellowship of Nigeria, Bishop Wale Oke, says Christians in Nigeria are facing what he calls a genocide, with their patience being stressed by continued attacks. He blames extremist groups like Boko Haram and ISWAP for the killings, noting they misuse religion to justify violence. Bishop Oke also urges President Tinubu to cooperate with U.S. President Donald Trump to tackle terrorism and restore peace. Also, the Olubado of Ibadan, Oba Rashidi Ladoja, who hosted the PFN president, lamented long years of killings and called for healing within the Christian community. Meanwhile, retired Naval Commodore Promise Dapper says the Nigerian military currently lacks the capacity and morale to defeat Boko Haram. In an interview with correspondent Ikachimosu, he described the group as one of the most violent and well-funded Islamist organizations in the world.
When we bought 6 Tucano pieces, by the time we acquiring those 6, Niger Republic here already has 1 dozen of Tucano in their inventory. As of 2018, Nigeria does not have MRAP. One brigade of Niger came to come assist Nigeria. They came with 200 MRAP. So this is just to give you a snippet of what it takes to win a war. What we will say, Nigeria, we went to Komo, we fought. That time we have a Radu that if you position it in Bonn, you can level Port Harcourt. By that time, we have about 6 missile carrying boats. Aradu was built 3. Nigeria bought 1, UK bought 1, Argentina bought 1. It has a capacity of a division. It fights in the air, on the land, and on the water.
Dapper accused those opposing U.S. assistance in Nigeria's fight against terrorism of being sympathetic to the terrorists and urged President Bola Tinubu not to repeat former President Buhari's rejection of international support. Now let's talk politics. President Bola Tinubu says Governor Soludo's re-election is an affirmation of his visionary leadership and the progress recorded under his administration. President Tinubu commended the people of Anambra, security agencies, and INEC for ensuring a peaceful and credible poll. Also, the president praised Soludo for bringing discipline, transparency, and innovation to governance in the state. Tinubu insists there will be continued collaboration between the federal government and Anambra to sustain development in the region. On Sunday, INEC returning officer and vice chancellor of the University of Benin, Professor Edoga Omoregie, announced that Professor Soludo won all the 21 local government areas. Meanwhile, Governor Soludo is grateful to the people of the state for renewing his mandate for another 4 years. Speaking after being declared winner of the November 8th governorship election, Soludo says it is time to get back to work. He adds that governance is a 24/7 task and assures that his administration will continue to deliver on its promises to the people of Anambra. It might interest you to know that Governor Soludo scored a total of 422,666 votes, followed by the All Progressives Congress with 99,445 votes. Paul Chukwuma of YPP came third, with Labour Party's George Muonyili finishing fourth with 10,505 votes. The People's Democratic Party with 1,401 votes trailed behind. Now, while the president has given a pass mark to INEC for the conduct of Saturday's election in Anambra, his party's candidate is yet to accept defeat. The ABC candidate, Nicholas Ifechukwu, says his party is still studying the outcome of the election before deciding on its next steps. He alleges that his supporters were harassed and prevented from voting by thugs during the election. However, Ifechukwu commended his supporters for their effort, saying the APC performed well despite not engaging in vote buying. To other reactions now. The African Democratic Congress says the Anambra governorship election was marred by widespread vote buying and financial inducement. The party's national publicity secretary, Bolaji Abdullahi, accused Governor Soludo of turning the poll into a cash-drenched spectacle that undermines democracy. ADC candidate John Wosu also rejected the outcome, calling it a national embarrassment and a subversion of the people's will. Meanwhile, the Labour Party candidate Dr. George Muonyili rejected the result of the election, alleging that the process was riddled with vote buying and irregularities. He says underage voters were allowed to cast ballots, while in some areas the Labour Party logo was missing from the ballot paper. Muonyili insists the poll fell short of expectations and promises to issue a detailed statement after receiving reports from his agent. In a surprising move, the People's Democratic Party candidate Jude Ezenwafo says he is ready to work with Governor Soludo for the progress of the state. Ezenwafo, who spoke on Channels Television on Monday, says he had always shared a cordial relationship with the governor. Well, still to come, troops of Operation Hadinkai arrest suspects accused of supplying materials to terrorists in Borno State. Stay with us.
This is the news on 92.3 Nigeria Info.